Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Sports Taza. With me today, I have Mr. Gaurav Sundararaman. Gaurav is a data analyst at ESPNCricinfo, and along with that, he's an auction and draft strategy consultant. He was also the analytics consultant for the champion Windies T20 team in 2016. He was also a part of various IPL franchises, sat on the auction table for RCB in 2015, teaches a few courses on analytics as well. So, welcome, Gaurav, to the show.
Thanks a lot for having me with it. Pleasure's mine.
Yes. So, how much was your role in India's loss to West Indies in the semi-final of 2016 World Cup? How much can I blame you? Just tell me this.
So, obviously, for starters, as analysts, we only provide information. We provide insights which you think could help. At the end of the day, it's the players who go out there and execute stuff. They are the ones who go out there and actually put the plans in place. So, I won't take any credit for that win. However, the whole campaign was good in the way that a lot of strategies were implemented.
Okay. And you have a very funny picture in a T-shirt which says "Begin like Sachin, live like Kohli, and finish like Dhoni." How about I just add one more line and say, "Have your after cricket life like Dada."
Yeah, you can if it fits well and good.
Why
Uh,
not? What do you
yeah,
think of
all
Ganguly as the
three,
BCCI president?
all three amazing players, and all three have their own set of strength and fan following. India is just lucky to have such cricketers constantly. Every time, as and when one person finishes, somebody else comes in. So India that way is extremely gifted and lucky, and we use the talent in the best possible way. So uh, yeah, good for the game.
Okay. So now I'll just ask. I hope you've seen Moneyball,
Yeah.
and how much role has Moneyball played in your life?
Definitely, the movie itself is pretty inspiring in the sense that it opened up potential career, at least made us think, right? That hey, this could be a career option for someone who's not played the sport and someone who's not been around. So uh, that way, I felt that that was a very the movie itself was very well taken. I opened for a lot of us. Then and then that for me, the career was something thought it will, and glad I'm working on it right now.
And do you think cricket is having its Moneyball moment right now?
Not really. I think we have a long way to go. The word Moneyball itself is kind of used very loosely when it comes to cricket and sports and stuff. If you look specifically, that sports like baseball, which Moneyball was based on, had specific stuff for the analyst, has specific roles, and there's no concept of pitch, for example, in baseball or basketball or any of the American sports. So the concept of actually using numbers and making decisions is a lot more successful in those sports than in a sport like cricket, where there's so much dynamic. It's so dynamic in nature. It has a concept of a pitch, which you have no idea how it's going to behave, or you have the concept of weather keeps changing. Like in London the other day, you saw how the weather was constantly changing and things change. So I would say we are still far away from a Moneyball moment. Yes, you have Moneyball moment here and there, but ideally the Leicester City winning Premiership, the Oakland Raiders making it to the playoffs. These are things which I think cricket still needs. We are still far away from them.
Okay. And it's been said that data should never do any harm, and data always plays the role of a facilitator. What's
Yeah,
your thought on this?
I'm absolutely with that phrase. Uh, like I said right at the start of the show, as an analyst, you can only provide data. You can only provide some information. Uh, at the end of the day, the players have to execute it to the T. Data has to be accurate. A lot of things have to fall in place for the plan to work. So it's not just data. If I like I give an example most of the time, you find that a particular player is weak at the short ball, and then you ask a bowler to bowl short, then you realize later on that hey, actually he's weak against the short ball of those bowlers who bowl 140 plus and not slightly slower fast bowlers. So there's such a big difference in insight between saying that somebody is weak in the short ball and somebody is weak with the short ball of 140 plus. So there's so much of a difference that sometimes analysis can be really bad if you don't do it well. So according to me, it's a good indicator, it's a good validator, validates a lot of thoughts, breaks a lot of myths, etc.
And since you mentioned about the short ball, the only name that came to mind was Rohit Sharma. He's said to be one of the greatest Indian players of short ball, and in the recent few times, you've seen him getting out to short balls.
Yeah, but that's sometimes the most high risk shot could become your most successful shot as well. So I don't blame him. I think he's one of the great pullers of the game. He plays it so well. He picks the ball really well. So maybe out of 10 times, you're bound to get out seven or three times, and you're going to be successful 7 times. And that's a ratio which I'm more than happy to take.
Perfect. And recently, last week only, I saw in the news, Tendulkar had said that in 2002, when he walked into a dressing room, he'd seen a computer for the first time in the dressing room, and he was like, "What is a computer doing here?" And this is back 18, 19 years old. And
Right.
when this saying came, you need to adapt, or eventually you will die. And now you see computers everywhere.
So my theory is that, look, you need to adapt with technology. Now we are talking about machine learning. We're talking about wearable technologies. That seems very new now. When that's our 2002 Sachin moment. When you go into a team, you see a lot of people wearing these sensors on their body. There was the GPS vests to measure heart rate, to measure the speed of the running, speed at which you run, etc. So at each stage in your life, based on technology, based on where you are, things change. So yes, at the start, nobody would have expected that data and analytics to play such a big role. But today, it that too with the advent of T20 cricket, there's a lot of I would say it. The need for technology, need for data, need for being ahead of the curve is becomes very important. So yes, when once Sachin saw it, he was good enough to accept it, good enough to use it in the best possible way he wants to use it. So every individual may not subscribe to technology, may not subscribe to data. As long as they use it to their advantage, use it to what they can do, I think we are good.
And I think technology data still is at a very nascent stage in Indian cricket. This is just the beginning.
Yeah.
At least the good thing is people are starting to accept it. The audience is becoming more aware of it. The players, coaching staff is ready to accept it. That culture is coming in, and the scope or the process to improve here is immense. Like, what is the new technology you see coming in the next 3, 4 years, which will be implemented in Indian cricket?
Yeah, like I told you, a lot of things are there, but a couple of important things is using and analyzing variable technologies to actually make sense of the data and make inferences. For example, if I know that a particular player, if he bowls about 160 to 200 overs, he's likely to get injured. That's very, very important data for me to make my decision about workload management in this day and age of cricket. Or you might find data that a particular player, only if he bowls 200, 250 overs, getting into rhythm, then that's amazing data for me. So, uh, making use of wearable technology is one, and the other one is fielding data. Ability to track fielding data, ability to fielders, and try to find the speed at which they're able to get to the ball and make decisions based on them.
Absolutely, very insightful point raised that data on fielding is still very minimal. It's only probably on runs saved till now. It's
Yeah,
not about so bowling, batting may have lots of wagon wheels, lots of speed charts, lots of heat maps, but that's not the case with fielding. So reaction time may be there, runs saved may be there, but nothing else. So a lot of scope and a lot of improvement can be there in fielding, and fielding is a very important part in the entire game itself.
yeah.
Another thing which opponents of data raise very easily is this a game about statistics or is this a game about people? And one very famous line I'll just say which is it's not just about numbers, it's not about science. You cannot put a team together with a computer. To put a team together, you need experience, you need intuition. If it was possible with a computer, then anybody could have done it. So how would you defend this?
No, so I'm actually a lot of people ask me that question. Even though I'm an analyst, I love numbers, etc. The fact of the matter is, the reality is, as long as there's a good 50-50 balance, I'm totally okay. If the person takes 15, chooses 15 players based on intuition, all I would do is I'll validate those 15 selections based on numbers. And if I find at least out of which I know that 10 to 12 would be right, so if those two or three extra selections are completely off the boil, I would just lay down the numbers there. Then it's up to the coach or the selector to go about doing it. So the fact is, sometimes numbers will help eliminate bias, which is very important in selection. Numbers will eliminate some really horrific decisions if sometimes they're taken. Like you see DRS, right? You know now who's the best umpire, who's not the best umpire, purely from a numbers point of view. All these days, maybe they were not measured so efficiently. Now they are. So they will improve. So similarly, sometimes you have to make the hard calls using numbers. So as long as there's a good balance, 50-50, there's some logic towards the madness, I'm totally okay.
Absolutely. As long as you see both of them coexisting and one cannot exist without the other, that's very important to recognize and very important for everyone to accept that point.
In fact,
So,
I always say marry instincts with insights. That gives you the best result.
quite a nice line, marry instincts with insights. So, now if I ask you one question with the T20 World Cup coming in, many teams have announced their squads, New Zealand announcing them recently, Australia has announced their squad recently. So, will you see or would you want Kohli to open with Rohit? Kohli has already made it clear that he'll be opening with Rohit. He had his best IPL season in 2016 when he opened. But we have a dearth of openers. If you see openers, I can at least count 7, 8 on my list, especially for the T20 squad. So would you still want Kohli to open?
So I think these are questions, to be honest, very, very hard to answer because so many things change with it. A lot of things change based on form, based on conditions, based on injuries. So at that point in time, when we played England, it felt like Rahul was not in form. So they wanted to try Kohli at the top with Rohit. It worked for one match. Now, this is a World Cup, so you want to make sure everybody bats in the most comfortable role possible. So, if Kohli is decided that for RCB he's going to continue to open and that's what he's most comfortable with, he would have played 7 games in similar conditions and he's happy to open, then yes, it makes more logical sense. As long as you're comfortable, he and Rohit can open, followed by the other batter. India had too much good bench strength, too many good players to really worry about Virat Kohli's position. I think, irrespective of where he bats, I think they have a very, very strong team. So I'm not too fussed about whether he bats at three or opens, but as long as he bats in a position he's comfortable, and because of him, there shouldn't be somebody's position taken away or somebody's position of strength taken away. So you can't ask him to go at number three, number four, because that's not something he's ever done. Whereas Kohli has done both. So as long as they're picking some other specialist number three or four, that's totally fine.
So probably Shikhar Dhawan, he's had some amazing IPL seasons of late, 500 plus seasons across, had a decent first half as well. But many analysts have not even kept him a part of the 2021 World Cup squad also. If you see some everyone who's announced their squads or their tentative squads, Dhawan is actually missing from all of these squads. So it'll be a harsh call on him. But since Kohli's already made his announcement that I will open, let's see what happens in the IPL. So, do you think with the IPL happening and then back-to-back T20 World Cup happening, the Indian team will actually not play together right before the World Cup? Where if you see all other teams, they're playing lots of T20s. West Indies played lots of T20s. Australia played West Indies, went to Bangladesh. It may not be the preferred playing 11, but still. Whereas India, the team that went to Sri Lanka, only 2, 3 odd players may be a part of the squad. So the entire playing 11 or playing 13, 14 group will not be together till the World Cup. Do you think that will have a negative impact?
Good question, but this day and age, because of so many different schedules and so many different aspects, like take Australia for example, their best 11 are also going to assemble for the World Cup. None of them really played together for too long. They played for some time before Masters potential World Cup, but the World Cup never happened. And the team which went to West Indies and Bangladesh hardly are going to play in the World Cup. So uh, I don't think, again, people are used to adapting. People are like, if you look at Moeen Ali today, he's going to be playing the 100 and then coming back to play the Test series for the third Test. So people have to adapt. So this whole, yes, it's a World Cup. Getting the team together will be hard, but for this Indian team, I don't think it's going to be a hard thing because they've had success, they've tasted success, and they know exactly what their 11 is. So if not 11, at least 12, 13, they know. So I think that's it's not a big challenge, according to me.
Okay. And do you think it's actually an advantage with them playing on the same pitches for the IPL for 20 days and then shifting to the World Cup in the next 3 4 days? Is that an advantage to many teams? Disadvantage? For sure, the Pakistan team is at a disadvantage because Pakistan, Sri Lanka are probably two countries who have almost no representation in the IPL, whereas all the top players of other teams at least have some representation. Be it Afghanistan, be it Bangladesh, they also have some representation, and obviously Australia, England, West Indies have a lot of representation. So do you think some countries will be at a disadvantage, and or will it be a very level playing field?
I think for Pakistan, it's not a big deal because they end up playing a lot at UAE. That they know those conditions very well. PSL is also was played there for quite some time, so I don't think that is too much of a problem with it. Uh, like I said earlier, yes, there's a the more concern for me is the form, right? You know, just coming out of a big break and starting a World Cup is always hard. But if you're looking at you actually played a few games and your body is fresh to take on that intent to play with that same intensity, then that's what is more important for me. So for Pakistan, Sri Lanka, as long as they can schedule a few T20s before the World Cup and make sure that their best team plays, I think that's fine.
So do you expect all our top Indian bowlers, top batsmen to play all the IPL matches that are left, or do you expect some load management going on, some teams resting their key players, or the BCCI telling some IPL teams to actually rest, for example, Bumrah in some of the matches, rest Hardik, rest Kohli maybe for some of the
I
matches, or
don't
do you
think with
expect
it
them to
it's
play?
required. The franchise has its own set of requirements. You know, you need to win titles. There's lots of money at stake there. So, and it's only 4 overs. So I don't think if India, the best thing that could happen to India is if they can manage to beat England in the Test series before the fifth Test. They would get a pretty good break. So I don't think teams should look at resting anymore.
Okay. But we've often seen a lot of players getting injured in the IPL. And do you think the IPL, the timing is correct to schedule the IPL right before the World Cup, or it could have been avoided?
To be honest, I didn't even expect them to squeeze in an IPL before the World Cup. There's so many logistical challenges. You need none of the teams have camps. You actually the England tour of Bangladesh and Pakistan have been kind of postponed. So I didn't expect the IPL to happen, and IPL has to happen for the economics of cricket. So I'm totally for it. I'm totally okay if they finish it. It helps a lot of people earn their livelihood. So I think teams are now understood that this is how it's going to be in the post-COVID world, and just have to learn to adapt.
Okay. I personally was not in the favor because I think we have seen many people get injured during the IPL, and it would not be a good place to see if we see not just Indian key players but any team's key players getting injured in the IPL and the IPL getting blamed for it, or some COVID cases increasing in the IPL. Already, some boards are fighting that other international tours, as you said, are getting postponed and IPL is getting a priority. That's the harsh reality which is going on right now. So, now coming to a more happier topic, which is India's win recently. What did you think of it? Perfect Independence Day gift?
Uh, Forget that. Just the fact that they actually uh, did you what was your expectation going into that uh, final day?
So personally, when Pant got out in the morning, I expected no more target of 180, 185 maximum. Didn't expect the tail to actually score. If you see in the first innings, Shami, Bumrah, Ishant had all got out on ducks, but they scored brilliantly in the second innings. And anything above 250, I thought India is going for a draw. But just giving England 60 overs, I felt was maybe a bit less. Although India did end on the winning side, but I always thought that it was a little bit defensive.
Yeah, I think the fact that this Indian team believes that they can win from any situation is simply amazing. I don't think anybody called the final day the way it panned out. So that's the beauty of this team. They're able to come back from really, really hard situations and try to make a match or even win it. So if 2018 they couldn't close out matches, now 2021 they're actually closing out matches. So this Indian team corrects a lot of their mistakes and makes sure that they improve every single time they play. So yeah, the Lord's win was fantastic. Nobody expected it. Like you rightly said, after Pant got out, you wouldn't really expect um, the tail to wag so well, and they've done a great job. So I think kudos to this Indian team who are striving beyond excellence.
Absolutely. And another thing, I know Siraj bowled brilliantly, Bumrah, Shami, everyone contributed, but is leaving Ashwin out too harsh? He's probably the best spinner right now in the world. So, what does future hold for him?
See, I think he's a world-class spinner. It's a brave call for India to leave out Ashwin. It was purely, I guess, a tactical one based on the conditions. So a lot of people think Ashwin is a competition for Jadeja, but technically no. Ashwin plays instead of the fourth pacer. So it could be either Shardul Thakur or Ishant Sharma. Now that uh, if you see those conditions didn't really take spin. So having two spinners, maybe the thought process would have been that uh, hey, the conditions are not very favorable for spin. It might be hard, so let's go with four pacers, and it kind of worked in their favor. So Ashwin will constantly be part of this team. I'm sure he'll play a lot more matches. I expect him to play at Old Trafford and Oval. Leeds at again, it's not a very spin friendly venue. We need to see how the weather is, etc. Uh, so yeah, it is. The future is very bright for him. He has a lot of time left, and I'm sure he'll get more games when the situation demands.
Okay, I personally think very harsh. So, as you said, I only expect him to play at Manchester, not at Leeds. So, it will be tough. And if India is playing New Zealand next, New Zealand is also not spin assisting conditions. Don't expect two spinners to play then as well. So, probably seeing more of Ashwin only on home conditions from now onwards because Virat Kohli said this is the template we're going to stick to. 4-1 is our ideal, and this is when Shardul is also injured. So once probably Shardul becomes fit, Ashwin will have more competition to again fight for. And he was one of the people who was regular in the Test 11.
I
So
guess Ashwin also has missed a few tests in West Indies and New Zealand and one test in South Africa long back due to playing conditions. Just that India are reaping a lot of reward for the riches they have in terms of bench strength. And Ashwin is just like KL Rahul, how talented he is. He has been sitting out for 2 years just because he was having a few bad innings and a few technical flaws. You have a lot of Vihari. He just saved you an amazing test match in Australia, and now he's sitting out without playing a test match. So that's the nature of the beast now. Indian cricket is having a lot of talent, so you got to manage with that.
absolutely, I think India's bench strength both in batting terms and bowling terms has exceeded. India fielded two teams, one to Sri Lanka, one was in England. That itself was immense. So Ravi Shastri has already announced that he's gonna not extend his contract after the T20 World Cup. Just one or two names you have in mind for the next Indian coach. Is it going to be Dravid or some foreigner?
It can't be Dravid, I think, because Dravid's focus is on development and he's considering on the NCA. So I think he will not be part of it. There are a lot of overseas coaches. I think Mike Tyson has a great chance. He's had a successful stint. He knows Virat Kohli as well. In terms of other foreign coaches, you could look at Tom Moody, who's also applied a couple of times and he's really good. You have Andy Flower, who's also a pretty successful coach and knows how to uh, uh, win everywhere. these are some of the overseas coaches. Indian coaches, yeah, there are going to be a lot more names in the hat. You do have Vikram Rathore, you do have Wasim, likes of Wasim Jafar. So anything can happen. Indian team coach is a pretty big job, and there will be a lot of players who want to ex players who want to take that job up. But I think an overseas coach might, for all you know, work well. A guy like Ricky Ponting, maybe, who knows?
Do you think Ricky Ponting and Kohli can work together?
Yeah, why not? Anybody can work with anybody as long as they know if they have a common goal. So I don't think that is a big issue.
I personally think Dravid has a chance because many people had said that Sri Lanka tour is just a dummy tour for him to get into the other and proper national duties. W.V. Raman had said that Dravid, you can see Dravid stepping in. Kapil Dev has said it. So I would be happy if Dravid accepts the responsibility. He had earlier himself denied it, that he would not want to take so much travel. So let's see how it goes. But it'll be a very exciting pick. As you said, Indian cricket coach is a very prestigious post to fill in. And all the supporting staff is also will not be extending, be it Bharat Arun, be it Vikram Rathore, even their contract is expiring. So finding a new batting coach, bowling coach, fielding coach, all of this will be an immense exercise. So let's see how that goes. I'll just end this discussion with the last question, and which is there any role of emotions when you are taking decisions backed by data? Do you give into emotions or not? And especially now that you've become a father, how important has emotions come in
It's
for
a
you?
it's a good question. The fact is, basically, numbers help you kind of, um, I would say, rule out any kind of. The whole point of using numbers to make decisions is to rule out any kind of bias, right? So even though you're tilted towards a particular decision, you can pick the numbers in favor of you. Ideally, you shouldn't do it, but that's not going to help the team in the long run. So, I can answer for myself. I personally leave out all kinds of emotions, all kinds of fandom biases outside when I go into doing any kind of analysis. If it works, well and good. If it does not, then you keep learning and moving on. So, for me, it's I make sure that that's a big part of my learning is to not succumb to the pressures of emotions and bias.
Absolutely. Just one more interesting topic that came to my mind was there was a lot of controversy when Nathan Lehman, be it via England, be it in KKR, when McCullum had sent signals or raised codes. I don't see anything wrong about it. So, sending codes, sending signals is a long practice going on in cricket. For example, you would have your fielding coach at long on or fine leg standing. People will walk, or a 12th or third man will walk with gloves, with waters, giving signals, giving advice. So what's wrong in giving codes from the outside? It's as it is up to the captain to decide or the player to decide what to do. So why is
Spot
such
on.
a huge controversy about it? I don't understand it.
Even I don't understand. There's no need for any controversy. Maybe if something is new, people generally take time to accept it. I'm totally with you on that. With it, every sport has it. There's no. Ultimately, you need to execute things on the field. So I'm totally for these kind of external interventions. I'm happy if coaches can talk to the players constantly during each over and guide them on how to go about doing things. So I'm totally for that, and I hope future of cricket, at least the shorter formats, they allow this to happen.
Absolutely, I'm in line with you. And another thing is, if someone's walking out with a water bottle with a message, the captain, even if he doesn't want to see it, he's bound to hear it. Whereas if it's a code, if the captain doesn't want to pay attention, he won't pay attention to it. It's up to the
Correct.
captain who's so coach can only give some advice, send some codes, but the captain is running the game on the field, and
Spot
that
on.
is how it happens. So I think the controversy was very, very unnecessary. I'm in
Yep.
support of what's happening as long as the captain's happy with it. He doesn't see it as an obstruction. So I think many other teams will start using it. There's an unnecessary controversy going on. Just finishing on the last quote, which is that one negative point about a data analyst is that a data analyst makes a decision on what you see, and if things don't pan out, they quickly move on. Many are called, few are chosen. So the one thing is that they don't back something for too long. Is that thing correct? Because if things don't work out, they very quickly move on to the other thing. But if you have some emotions attached, you'll always stick to that player, stick to that tactic. But you said for you, emotions do not play any role. So
So
would you agree with this?
it's important to analyze everything with with the context. So if I'm working for an IPL team and you try out certain plans and then it doesn't work, you have to move on because your time window is very short, right? You have to change plans. You have to go away from the original thoughts because you need to win tournaments. You need to win leagues. If there is a slightly longer plan, then maybe worth sticking to your instinct, sticking to data based stories, etc. So I think there's always, I would say, uh, I'm thinking of the right word. I would always say that you back whatever you feel is right, but back it with some numbers and back it till you think that hey, the current setup can execute it. If you feel like I told you, if you don't have a 140 plus bowler, just because you're passionate about that plan, it doesn't mean that you keep giving that plan, right? So
Absolutely. Just this last audience question, which is, what do you think about the hype about matchups in T20s? And there's too much analysis sometimes. And what is your view of IPL teams having primarily support staff which are cronies of coaches?
so for the first question, I would say that. Uh, I won't say too much analysis. This is very basic 101 analysis is matchups. Anybody can kind of figure out if a player gets out to a particular player many times that you have to bring in, that's a weakness because it plays in the mind of the batter or the bowler. So I don't think that's too much analysis. There's actually the analysis done in cricket is like say 20% of what's actually done in other sports if you follow football, NFL, NBA, etc. So I'm not in that school of thought. I think there's a lot more to be tapped. So matchups is very basic, and that itself some works well. Imagine if we go deep, how well it will work. Second question is a tricky one. From outside, all this looks like the support staff is just working for the coach, but sometimes you need to have the best of people. You need to have a good working environment. It's a very short tournament, guys. IPL is just 2 months, and you need to give results. There's so much pressure, so you don't doing man management at that time. You need to focus on the winning matches, and you don't want to be dealing with people along, etc. So it's better to take people who everybody is comfortable with.
Thank you, Gaurav, for answering this, and thank you for the part of this discussion. One key takeaway for me would be marry instincts with insights. That's one line I'm surely going to take away. Thank you for your time in this. To our viewers, please keep continue watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Vidit, for having me.
Thank you, Gaurav.